Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and Bobby's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Um, we'll talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, and we'll talk about today's pretty full, to say the least, 1 p.m. MLB slate. There's also a 3:30 turbo slate. They're not turbo. They're calling it the main slate, but they're not offering the bigger prize pools for it, which is very interesting, I guess. There he is.
Sorry about that. I got a very important call like 10 minutes ago and I couldn't get off of it.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, so I was just telling everybody what the schedule was today. We got a full 1 o'clock slate, and then they're calling the 3:30 slate the main slate, but the prizes are smaller.
Who's calling it that? I haven't seen anything for
this. It's featured on DraftKings.
Oh, just because, but they're all featured.
Anytime one game. Yeah. So, but this is this is the main slate.
I'm not even acknowledging the other slate. I haven't looked. I haven't thought about it. Oh, it is 5 games. Oh, because that combines the slates, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And then there's the NBA later. I did very well yesterday, by the way, in like the NBA among other things.
You chopped, right?
So first of all, I won and chopped the baseball showdown like earlier in the day. I played that one game that slate, and I got the win out of the reliever, out of the bullpen at like 4%, and chopped that up. And then in the NBA, I chopped like second in the monster, which was only like $1,200 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. And then I cashed in the alley-oop too. It was I did some funny business with the lineup construction, like restricting ownership and things like that. And so when when Alvarado started to go off, that helped me. So I'm gonna do more of that. Even with these 2-game NBA slates, I'm gonna be playing 3 slates. I'll play the 2-gamer, then I'll play both showdowns. Just to get practice doing it. They are offering some big prizes. So I'm actually going to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay. My plan is to join you. The call I just got, I've got a family thing that I'll tell you about, and I'll tell you about later. I might have to take care of later on.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. But between this and golf, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. And then also, as I just kind of alluded to, we'll do the golf preview right immediately following this, or right about 1 o'clock. So there's a lot of stuff going on. More NASCAR this week. There's a week off from from MMA this week. But aside from that, pretty much everything's firing up. So as far as baseball goes, I did not do well. I was doing okay in FanDuel for a while, but I got away from the Dodgers Cubs game. So that when that went off,
I'm kind of mad at myself for not playing, because that's what I wanted to do. I even said it live. If I was going to do anything, that's what it would have been.
Yeah, so that kind of cost me. But aside from that, let me just close the door, and then
we'll get into it. It's a fun slate. I'm actually excited, guys. Please get the likes and all that stuff if you have a chance. And we'll go through this slate. I guess we're just getting a lot of the lineups in, or we're still waiting on quite a few too. So
yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah. And for what it's worth, the only weather concern is a potential delay, it seems like, in Baltimore. I'm sorry, not in Baltimore, in Detroit, in the Texas game. There's a potential delay, which is a big news because a lot of people are playing Scooble, and I would suggest that if I felt like the game was totally clear, that I would play Dane Dunning. Anyway, we'll get into the Minnesota-Baltimore game first. It's not the greatest, not horrible weather or anything, but a little rainy there. But decent hitting conditions, an interesting game here. What are your thoughts? I personally am not playing the pitchers, but I have a little bit of interest in Minnesota's bats.
I don't have them as priorities or anything, but I do have Lopez as kind of is on my list. It's going to take me probably a little while to get to him. But certainly has talent, and definitely kind of a tough matchup, tough park. So I don't think I'm going to play him in any big bind or anything like that. But if I get to some of him in like a build, I'll keep him. But that's pretty much it. And I'm not really getting to too much of the hitting here. I think it's similar for me as it was yesterday. I have like 3 or 4 teams that I really like, and then a couple of more who I sort of like. and we'll get to those a little bit later. But right now, it's just pretty. I'll say Lopez, and that's it. But it's probably going to be nothing.
Yeah, I don't mind a lot, but I do think that there's. I mean, they've been. It's not been the best start for a lot of the Minnesota bats, but they're so cheap. It's really weird to see. I know Buxton's off to a horrible start this year, but he hasn't stolen a base, which is weird. He's 4,200. You've got Larnach in there at 2,600 if you wanted to make a stack. I like Jeffers as a catching option. So I actually think that Minnesota is a little bit interesting here. Certainly at least for fillers, if not for maybe a little bit of a stack. All right, San Diego and Milwaukee.
Yeah. Nothing really for me here. It was going to be Peralta, but it's not anymore. Now it's a bullpen game between Wilson and Myers coming in. And King, I mean, again, I'd have to get, into my real third, fourth tier to get to him. So I'll just consider him a pass as well. And honestly, neither hitting environment is particularly useful for me either.
Yeah, I think King is completely playable. I have him 10%, I think, in my lineups today. And I will take the weird gamble in a couple lineups on Tobias Myers. Bryce Wilson, ignore this 8,700 price tag. It makes it look like he's actually a starter. He's not. He's a guy who opens games and he'll pitch a few innings. But Myers should be the long relief guy today. Now, obviously, you're getting some variance, but he's 4K. So that's why I'll play a little bit of Tobias Myers, just purely on speculation, because in the stack where I played him, I stacked the Dodgers and Atlanta together. You know what I mean? So that's the reason you would do something like this. And Michael King, I just think is a pivot off of Steven Matz and Severino that I don't think is that much worse, even though I think there definitely is potential downside here.
Meanwhile, that Pirate guy really mowed him down for the 60 pitches they let him pitch. He was
right.
He was awesome.
Yeah. All right, Pittsburgh and New York.
Speaking of which, right? So
yeah.
So Severino is going to just keep showing up as this value play at this price. I have him rated third as far as just point per dollar and overall value and stuff. I don't know what it is with these New York pitchers, guys that pitch for the Yankees and all this stuff. I'm just not a believer. I don't know what to say.
You think maybe it's because you've seen them too much?
Yeah, exactly. That's probably it. But he looks like a good play, looks like good value and all that stuff. Not really getting a falter, although he's 5K. If you really want to do what you were just saying, playing Dodgers and Braves and stuff like that, I think anybody that's got a check mark next to them that's 5K is probably in play. However, I actually have the Mets as one of my preferred stacks on DraftKings at least. I have them rated somewhere in the top 4. I mean, not as far as raw points go, but combining raw points with value and stuff like that, I really like them a lot here. So I'll consider the Mets one of my top overall stacks, and pretty much all I have.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because I actually feel a little stronger than you do about Severino. I actually think that it's just a complete misprice. He's got, for what it's worth, his difference in strikeout his difference in strikeout projection versus Skubal, for example, he's 0.05, so 5 out of 1,000 times lower. He's basically he's right there, basically tied for first in terms of his strikeouts expected today. I just can't ignore that at this price, even though, Pittsburgh can be dangerous, but it's a great pitcher's park, and there's enough strikeouts in there for him. And I have no reason, I don't know why no one wanted to play him the last couple times. I played him in both starts, and I'm going to continue doing so. Sure, there'll be some down games. There's wind blowing in from right field. I am not going to play the chalky Mets, but I definitely was considering it. Actually, they're getting now they did a little update. It's a little less popular than I thought it was going to be, but I really just don't like the lineup very much. But I mean, again, what they do have that I like better than the other side is that they've got the righties, because you've got Lindor to switch here against Falter, and then you've got Alvarez, Alonso. So I could definitely see why it makes sense. I just personally liked a little bit of other stacks better. So I have Severino big time as my number 1 pitcher right now. We'll see if I feel that way when we're done. But that's the, and then definitely don't mind the Mets, and it might even end up with some one-offs or something. But I'm not trying to get to them personally.
Yeah, there's like a question in the chat here. I just want to check something. Hold on, because I just want to make sure that we have that thing checked off.
Yeah, we want to, Sheets, I want to set just something clear just for the people who are watching. Anytime Sheets does a build or has anything like that he's got a build of or whatever, that's a bonus thing. The idea of this site and what we try to do is not just to show you our lineups and then say go, go play the same thing. So when people are asking for it specifically, I just think that there's a process, and I'll show my early builds, and they always change because of what, especially like an NBA, for example. But I show my exposures as it gets closer. But I don't think that in general we can tell people to expect to just show our lineups entirely. Members of the site, like I said, I'll show my early builds, but I don't think we want to just.
No, I was actually going further. I was wondering if he was actually a subscriber to the channel and if that thing's clicked off.
No, he is.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. So I guess that's the deal with Severino. I think there's a worse misprice. We'll get to a little bit later, but
yeah, we'll talk about that one too.
Yeah. Okay. You want to move on?
Yeah. You got the Pittsburgh, Texas, and Detroit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Scooble is showing up as one of the top plays, but I mean, I don't know about this. I don't know what to say. He's against Texas. I mean, listen, he's got upside, I guess. He has strikeouts, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to do it. That's the best I can describe this. I mean, I'd probably rather play other guys than pay $10K for him. He certainly looks like a really good play, though. When you run builds, you're going to get to a bunch of them. I don't know what else to say about that. I'm not going to get to Dunning, but you could try to talk me into it. I was going to be more inclined to play Detroit, but I mean, that's the type of play again that's going to look good as far as point per dollar because they're just cheap. But Dunning really doesn't give up all that much. So I'm probably going to avoid what my projections are probably wanting me to do in this game, which is probably play Scooble in Detroit.
Yeah, I genuinely don't understand the Dunning projections. I don't understand the ownership never being there. You're just talking about 7K on, look, I like to spend up for a lot of these stacks that I like a lot. And you have 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from center in this game. Like, I just don't see why I wouldn't take advantage of a little bit of Dunning. Now, look, it's just, again, I prefer Severino. There's other guys we'll talk about in this price range too. But I just personally don't want to do it. And I love Scooble as a real-life pitcher. I think he's one of the best 15, 20 pitchers in baseball. I don't think that this is a spot where I'd stack Texas against them. But at the same time, I don't have any Scooble right now. I don't like messing with Texas as much as I can, like especially for any chalk, and then also with weather delays possible. I just feel like that's the reason to get off Scooble. And then but the difference is I like Dunning a little bit, but I'm getting 1% ownership on him.
Jonte Porter banned for life coming across my.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I just didn't know if it would be. It's kind of weird they would do it right as this tournament, the play-in starts. I think they should have announced it last week. Anyway, sorry.
Or in the off season when hopefully people don't.
Yeah, just wait. Like he's not going to play any games anyway.
Let him go let him do his appeals or whatever it is. It's just
now you got to worry about his brother though.
It's all bad. Who's his brother?
Michael Porter Jr.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah.
Yes, we know about the weather in Detroit. K9, thank you. We're trying to keep an eye on that as much as possible.
Yeah.
By the way,
what's up? It looks like the game's going to play for what it's worth. They just the delays.
Hey, shout out to, I forget the guy's name already, but there was a user on FanDuel yesterday that just crushed. He won the FanDuel Monster baseball for like 100. He won like the NBA Monster as well.
Oh, wow.
And he was like first, third, and fourth in the FanDuel Monster. He was just like everywhere. I'm sure he's like somebody we know on DraftKings. I don't have the screen name in front of me. Like game something or other. It's not Game Addict Legend who's in here, but it's it was something like that. I'd love to pull it up, but I just can't. Hang on a minute. You know what? It's probably a waste of time. But whoever that is, much congratulations. I mean, just really killed it. Where is this? Hold on a second. Why don't you start with the next game, and then, I'll get there. this.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I didn't notice, but let's see. Okay, so next up, KC, Chicago. I absolutely will be playing Brady Singer today. I also like they're so cheap in Chicago. I don't mind if you want to take some bets on the other side if you're not playing them, just because they're just crazy cheap, and for good reason. They've been terrible. Brady Singer is again going to be low owned. He's going to be the guy I spend up for just because the ownership gap between he and Dunning, he and everybody else in that range. And he is a consistent out producer of his strikeout prop, of his expected results. I think he's talented, but he obviously has he's got busts. He's got some rough ones in there in his past, but I think we got to give him a little bit of credit. And he's just been pretty good, but he had to face Houston. He didn't have a great game against the White Sox last time. It was fine, but I think he's a little bit more extended right now. Obviously, he was dominant against Minnesota at the beginning of the year. So I like the Brady Singer play a little bit. I am not it is good hitting weather for what it's worth in Kansas City. This is, I think, going to be the most popular team on the slate, and I would rather not. That's the best way I can describe it. You might see some 3-mans. You might see a 4-man on a 4-4 stack. I don't think you're going to see a 5-man KC stack for me just because of the ownership. I don't have anybody projected less than double-digit owned, and I would, if I'm going to play a team that's chalkier. I know they've hit a little bit to start the season, and Salvador Perez is in the lineup in the first of this doubleheader, but I personally just don't want to play the mega chalk, and that's pretty much it. This is a great matchup for them. Like I said, good hitting weather, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to play a 5-man stack of KC, even though they're going to be they rate to be really good play.
So I kind of lied. I didn't think this happened, but so the guy's name is Game Changer Nick. This was his NBA when he won the Monster. Again, you see me tied for second here among a couple other people.
Yeah.
But I lied. He got caught in the 100K. I didn't stick around to see the end of that Arizona game. He got caught by a point at the end. So he did not, in fact, win that somehow. He was first and eighth. He was first and third or something. But I guess he didn't have as much of the
maybe late Cubs got him.
I guess, but he had a bunch of that too. I don't know who got him. I guess the Scott OK just was a little bit better at the end of the day. But
yeah, just the difference.
Even the Scott OK, he did it with a 6-ball. That's
not that weird though. That's pretty normal, isn't it?
When you have 23 runs in the game, yeah, I guess so.
Well, no, I mean, I just think that usually somebody in your lineup has a nothing,
Right.
Aren't you the one who won with 3 or 4 zeros once?
Yeah, but not when the team scored 24 runs.
Right. I got you.
Okay. So with me, as far as KC and Detroit and the White Sox, I'm actually not getting the KC rated as high as maybe other people are.
Nice.
I'm not really getting it too much of that on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'm getting a little bit more of it, but even on FanDuel, they're not one of my top 2. They're third sort of on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, for whatever reason, I'm not really getting as much of that. So I actually feel kind of good about that. And yeah, Brady Singer against the White Sox. I sarcastically talk about him in the KC pitching staff, whatever. But the fact is, I mean, he's even if he weren't pitching his best right now, the White Sox have just been just awful.
Right.
There are worse pitchers I would probably take than Brady Singer in the spot at 9,200 against the White Sox, considering what they're doing. I forgot the stat, and I know it's not all about runs, and it's not a lot of advanced metrics in this, but I think they've scored more than 1 run twice or something. It was or something.
Crazy,
It's just bananas. So, but I mean, again, my speech about Brady Singer, he added his sweeper over the offseason, and until somebody beats him, I'm just, you're just going to have to
also point out that he was the 6th or 7th best pitcher in the American League last year. It wasn't like he needed to add something. I mean,
right. But listen, I joked, after this, this is his debut, that this is going to be the last time anybody plays him at 8,400. They gave you a shot. They let you play him at 8,200 against the Astros, because again, the Astros are just so amazing. They only beat them by 10 runs, right? But this, I don't think that he's going to be under 9K much more. But we'll see. Now, I will say that the wind is certainly working against them in this spot.
Right.
There definitely wind's blowing out, but you got to get the ball. You got to get the ball moving if you want the wind to carry. And the White Sox just do not have a lot of pop in their bats right now. So, Singer is going to continue to be low owned until sometime. So I will keep playing him. Like, I'd rather play him than, we'll get to this, but Matt, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I do like Singer.
I'm curious who your mispricer is going to be after we get through this. I thought we would have hit on it, and I thought Max might have been it until you said that.
All right, you want to move on? Atlanta. Yeah. Okay. Max Fried, again, the usual speech on him. He always rates as kind of an okay point per dollar real life pitcher, but might not even rate that well against Houston because people still think Houston is good, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to get to him today. JP France, I'm not interested in playing pitchers against Atlanta in general. Not to mention in a tough park for pitchers. But Atlanta themselves, I mean, I have them as, alongside the Dodgers, they're the top stat pretty much. So they have nothing wrong with that. If you can get to them, great. Same speech as usual. But even more so today. You know what I mean? Like, this is actually a really good park too, and JP France can give up some stuff. I mean, I've had games where JP France has gotten destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, he can give up a ton if things don't work out. So I would try my best to get to Atlanta. And I guess that's all I have. I'm not playing anybody. I'm not playing Houston.
Yeah, he hasn't been good so far. I have no idea. Like, I guess, looking at all these things, the Dodgers are my number one, but Atlanta is my number two. And I think if you can get him in, you should have some exposure. And I think if I was playing 150, I probably would end up with 10% Fried. I didn't get to him in any of my hand builds today. Maybe a mistake. I just think there's better spots. All right, New York and Toronto.
You want me to start with this one? Okay.
Sure. Whatever.
Okay, I'll start with this. All right. So you have Stroman against Gausman. We'll deal with Stroman first. I mean, so Stroman, this is the same type of story as usual. He's a really good real life pitcher. Doesn't really have all too much upside per se. Well, I mean, he has upside, whatever it is. But it's not the guy we usually play in DFS, and his matchup isn't great. So Gausman is 9K. Now, again, the matchup isn't terrific, but you know that he has upside. So this was my misprice, and it's kind of like kind of like a bait and switch, whatever. Kevin Gausman is 7,600 on FanDuel.
Oh Jesus!
So hopefully,
I would just play him over there and not. And just
hopefully nobody notices.
Yeah, I think probably it will.
I think people might pick up on that. That's a little that's kind of a little obscene. So I'll just throw it out there. He's 2,000 less than Paul Blackburn, like, for example. No, nothing against Paul Blackburn, right? But that price is just someone literally like mistyping something, I think. So I figured I'd point it out to the people. I'm sure people will notice, but if not, whatever. At least I've said it. So he's a really tremendous value over there, who's probably going to be 80% owned in the big buy-in, but maybe only 30 in the small one. We'll see. Listen, the Yankees are a tough matchup, and then the Gausman has just got crushed right in his last start or something. I don't know. So I actually don't mind him on DraftKings either at 9K, just because of his upside. But definitely he's a significantly better value on FanDuel.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I'll probably shift a tiny bit of Brady Singer just to take some shots on Gausman. I'll point out that, one, he has not fared well against the Yankees in the past. Two, what was my big two? I had
you got Soto who's going to take like 11 pitches in a row.
It's a tough team with Soto in there. It's not like the same old Yankees, because even if your guy gets through, I mean, again, you have to work so hard. It's like
you get through Soto, but you've wasted 8 pitches to get there.
Right, and the same with Judge, by the way. Nobody takes more pitches than these two guys in all of baseball.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough situation. But again, definitely has the upside. The problem I'm having is the ownership is, to me, it's absurd that he would be that much more owned. It really is a price thing because we're used to seeing him at 10K because I don't know why he'd be 25%. I don't think he will be. I think he's going to be less than that, but I think it'll be 20 or something.
Oh, on DraftKings? I didn't even realize.
Yeah, he's, I mean,
wow.
Yeah,
you're right. I didn't notice. Yeah.
And I just can't take hitters in like good conscience unless I just wanted to randomly pick these stacks. There's really no logic base between just picking a stack between either of these teams, in my opinion. It just would be like here's something to do.
Right.
All right, Washington at my Dodgers.
Yep. The usual. I shouldn't even say that. I think the Dodgers are clearly the best stack on the board. You can get to them, and if you can't, then there are pitchers that you can use to make you. It's I didn't see the lineup yet, but they'll give you somebody to play. You know what I mean? Like they'll throw somebody in there. Whether it's like you said, whether it's Rojas or Outman or Lux at 3,100 against the righty, even though he hasn't really done anything, who cares? So yeah, the Dodgers are probably the best play. I wonder if we're supposed to play Washington. They are looking like good quote unquote values here. I'll let you talk if you know anything about this Nat guy. But aside from that, it's Dodgers and probably more Dodgers.
Yes. First, I think that you could play Knack as a cheap option if you wanted to go a pivot.
Who is he? He's like an actual starter and stuff. Like,
well, he's a guy from the minor leagues they called up, and no, I would say he's not. He's not a top prospect. He's not like
no. But he's a guy that they're going to have him, play the game. You know what I mean? He's not going to pitch one inning and then have somebody come in.
I don't think that anybody, including the team, actually knows how that's going to go.
All right.
So there is some risk involved. That's just my personal take.
Right.
Again, like we see it all the time. These guys are, they don't let him go too far, but usually that's when they're trying to coddle someone. So they might let him. He should be stretched out enough. He pitched, he just had 2 starts in the minors. I am not like in love with it, but it's just something you can do. I love the Dodgers stack. I understand the chalkiness. I'm willing to eat some of it. I think it's hard to get in other stuff. And you mentioned it. Part of my way of getting that other stuff in is in my Dodger stacks where I'm not using Knack, obviously, which is only a small percentage. I think probably like 8% I have. I think that the Washington is a great play on the other side. It's a good. Dodger Stadium plays a lot different during the day than it does at night, and it's 70 plus. So hey Alexa or hey Google would have told us that.
Yeah,
I don't have it in my room anymore. But I like this, and you got a really good spend up in Abrams, who's really just been awesome. You got Gallo as a potential home run threat at 3,100 as a cheapo. Winker hit a home run yesterday. He's 35. 2,900 for Garcia. Again, expect lineups to be different than what they're being projected right now because it's Wednesday. So we don't have the lineups yet, but I think both sides of this game from the hitting perspective are way in there, way up there for me. The real only argument I can come up with for the Dodgers not playing them is because they're going to be right there with the Royals, I think, as the own teams. But I think it's still low enough, and I think there's enough ways to do it. Also, you've got value with them now, which you never had because this Andy Pages was tearing it up in the minor leagues. He's 2,500. Even at the bottom of a lineup like the Dodgers, you want to get exposure to that kind of stuff. At least I do. And that kid's going to start hitting some home runs pretty soon. So he's the number 3 prospect in the Dodgers organization. He's got some stuff, and they brought him up because none of their other guys are hitting, as I mentioned yesterday. All right, St. Louis, Oakland.
Yeah. So Matt's at 6,700. You could actually argue that's kind of a mispriced too.
That was my other one that I thought.
Yeah. I guess you gotta consider that, but it's a misprice, like in part at least because of the matchup. Like there are other times where if he showed up at 6,700, I'm like, that's kind of cheap, I guess. But because it's against Oakland, he should just be higher. 7,500-ish makes a little bit more sense. And as a result, he's going to show up in the optimals. He's going to show up in whatever. Does he have the upside? Does it matter at 6,700? I don't know. It's if You know what you get from the upside? You get to play like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. You know,
Right.
that's the upside for Mats. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, because of that, probably supposed to play him. Listen, I didn't run my builds, my last build yet, and I probably should, considering lock is in 20 minutes. But I wouldn't like intentionally, like not play Mats just because he's going to be chalky. I mean, because it lets you get to just so many bats.
Yeah, and let's just go through. I'm just going to have to point this out because the A's have played 16 games and they've scored more than 4 runs. They've scored more than 4 runs 2 times. They've scored 1 or less. I'm sorry, 2 or less in 5 of their last 6. They've scored 1 or less 5 times this year. I just don't know how we can't take shots against them. Now, there are going to be other arguments where we're going to be talking about playing them because they're so cheap and whatever. If Patrick Corbin was pitching at like 4,500 today, you'd have an interesting conversation of, do you play the A's against Patrick Corbin or do you play a little bit of Patrick Corbin? That's the kind of stuff I'm thinking about. But I like Mats enough here to play him. That's basically the best way I can put it. This is one that doesn't make sense to me, is the Paul Blackburn. So Paul, I was reading a thing the other day, and it was like somebody who I respected, ESPN. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but he ranked his top 5 pitchers in baseball under 30, and he had Paul Blackburn as number 3. I thought that was interesting, just to think about things a little bit differently. Good real-life pitcher against the lineup that we've seen struggle at times. And, it's in Oakland, so it's a good park, but it is a little better hitting weather than usual for Oakland. So, look, a little bit of Paul Blackburn for me and a little more than the field on Steven Matz. That's where I'm at in this game. If you wanted to make a different case and say anybody you could play, yeah, you've got value all over the place in this game. You can take any of those shots. We don't know who's going to be playing for the A's, but like Tyler Nevin might be 2,800 and batting cleanup, and there's definitely platoon risk, but at the same time, I think you just got to embrace it if you're going to play the A's.
I think at 7,600, you have to be concerned about the lack of Ks a little bit. But St. Louis is pretty good at striking out against righties.
2 of the teams he faced so far, though, are the teams that struck out the least last year of any teams, which is
Cleveland and Washington, right? Yeah.
Detroit does strike out, so but I can use that. I can chalk that up in my head at least to a 1 game.
Right.
I don't think his strikeout stuff is unbelievable in anyway, but I think it's better than it's been so far.
So we get a chance to run back, Coors in the Desert again. Chicago, Arizona. These Arizona totals continue to be high. Chicago continues to pound the ball. Arizona, they do a pretty good job of pounding it too. And I think you go right back to these guys. Now, the fat guys, I like to call him, he can be okay from time to time, but I don't know.
He helped lead a World Series charge and took down my Dodgers.
I know.
We watched the game. I couldn't believe they couldn't hit a guy who has like an 88-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah. So, but still, I mean, I do like the Cubs here, and I do like Arizona. But it's weird. I'm not really getting them. I guess because of the price. I guess they're a little bit
It has to be the price because their projected ownership is disgustingly low, way lower.
Yeah, it's got to be because of the price here. So, I'll probably try to force in maybe some Arizona actually. Maybe try to force in some of them. And obviously, I'm not getting to any of this pitching.
Yeah, I actually don't mind if you want to take a shot on Fott in general. I just don't like to do it against the Cubs. So I love the Cubs again. I love getting the road teams. I hate that the roof is closed today. The roof has been open.
Ooh, okay, that's something.
They closed it because it's the afternoon and it's probably, I don't know what the temperature is in Arizona, but it's probably like 95 degrees, even though it's April and for some reason it's 60 in California. I like the Cubs. I have them ahead of Arizona, but I like both. So these are the Dodgers, Braves, and these 2 teams will make up the majority of my stacks, along with like side stacks from Washington and stuff, All
so
right.
this last game here, the Cincinnati-Seattle game. I mean, I probably should thinking about this spot in this game more than I should.
I think you are.
Yeah, I mean, no, only because you have Miller and Abbott who are showing up as like kind of obvious pivots. You know what I mean? Like these are the guys that I think people are going to want to play if you don't play the obvious guys. And the reason for that is they both do have some upside, and it's a park that people just love to play pitchers in, okay? And maybe for good reason. But even Hunter Green struggled a little bit, yesterday. And
You got the strikeouts fired up though, huh?
he did well. Yeah, well, he throws at 100. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Throws at 100 doesn't matter. It's like so. I wonder what's going to happen with the ownership of these two guys. I guess it can't be that high. So I'm not worried too much. I guess. I think they're both good enough. Boy, every time I say that, I just have these ideas of Seattle just being able to go off on someone. But I'm probably just going to stay away from this game.
I actually think it's worth like maybe taking like a one-shot stack, you know what I mean, or something. But like it wouldn't be a core thing for me. But I don't mind like taking big gambles.
Okay, he's a lefty. We get to play Haniger and all those dudes.
Yeah. No, I get it, and they've been bad, so they're cheap. I really like Bryce Miller as a pitcher. I really like Andrew Abbott as a pitcher, and they will be guys I'll be using in DFS all year. And today is no different. I have Severino the most because he's cheaper, but Abbott and Bryce Miller are right there for me, along with Matt right behind them. But I like both the pitchers, but I don't mind your idea. I wouldn't like make it a core thing, but I think getting creative with the Seattle stack against lefties. Well, we haven't really seen them this year, and they don't have Suarez there anymore. It's maybe not quite as good as they used to be. There's still a lot of guys who are good against lefties in that lineup, and they're cheap. And Abbott, as good as he is, as talented as he is, he definitely has games where he just completely loses it. And you have a Cincinnati bullpen that is, I don't know. I'm going to still call them questionable. I don't think they're going to be good by the end of the year.
I'll tell you something else. There was a period of time last year where you identified this kind of early, where Abbott was one of the top, if not the top, like fantasy point producers, like over a stretch of time. Mm-hmm. He's not striking anybody out.
Right.
And if he's not striking anybody out, and I get to play my righties from Seattle against that, whether it be Garver or Raleigh, a catcher, I don't even care. You get to play Rodriguez, you get to play Haniger, and even Polanco. He had a really big game for me the other day.
Oh, you're selling me so hard because you're totally right. And if two things merge, like you have a high strikeout Seattle team where that's their big weakness, and you have a high strikeout pitcher who can't seem to strike anybody out, maybe they all merge and they just shellac him.
Maybe. And then what's cool is that when we're doing the NBA thing at 6 or 6:30, we'll be able to sweat the last couple innings, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of into this slate. This is the first time in a while where I probably couldn't sleep. I got up at like 3 a.m, but I spent a lot of time and I just going through it, and I feel pretty good about where I'm at with it. With the Dodgers, Atlanta, and both sides of the Cubs, Arizona, and I like mixing up a little pitchers. I'm just seeing if there's anybody else who I have that I didn't mention. No, I don't think so. I think I actually mentioned everybody I have. Yeah.
Dude, this is tough. I have like 6 Seattle guys I want to play. 7.
I played one JP France lineup, and it's strictly 5,400 against an offense for some reason. Even though they've been okay for Atlanta, they have not looked like the same offense without Albies so far, and we'll just see. I mean, he's 5,400, and I'm playing a lot of Atlanta, so it's a little hedge. BMAC, nobody likes the Seattle bat, so you don't have to worry about it because they're going to be completely unowned, and it's not like anybody's preaching the Seattle bats would make a lot of sense. We're making a case for getting way off the board and how it could work. Not that this is an optimal situation. It's really not.
You know what you could do? I mean, that's just, you could play that in that kind of funky afternoon slate if you want.
That's true. That's the way to get different, probably.
You could do that.
The also funky afternoon one is confusing because so that they're including the second game of the doubleheader. I just don't know how this is going to work.
Totally confusing. It's perfect slate.
But you may have no idea who's even playing in the game that's going to be.
Well, if you figure it out, you'll have such an edge because no one's going to care at all. You know what I mean? Like, No one's going to play the slate. No one's going to figure out who's playing. They're going to be sweating their 1 o'clock stuff. You know what I mean? And if they put in anything, it's going to be lazy. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want – listen, and it's not paying so much for first or whatever, but you could probably generate, like, a huge ROI if you focus on that slate today.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Just saying.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting take, especially for the – I don't know. I should take some more shots like that for the NBA ones.
Exactly. See, I can't even talk to anybody that playing this slate. Like, no one's going to play it.
You're right. You might even get the overlay on top of it. You're the only person who played. All right. So do you want to take a quick break for 15 minutes to finish the lineups, and then we get going?
Yes, I will see you. Actually, let's get to lunch. Let's do we'll do golf at 1:00 because that's what's scheduled for.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.